At number 1, I have Drew Sanders, linebacker out of Arkansas. He is number 2 on both Mark and Dibe's boards. So let's talk about Drew Sanders first. He is my number 39 overall prospect, a guy that I think at the end of the day is probably going to sneak into the back end of the first round. I'm not sure if he will or not, but I think he probably will. He was a 5-star prospect coming out of high school. He played quarterback, wide receiver, and linebacker in high school. Then he played 2 years at Alabama, mostly as an edge, before he transferred to Arkansas for the 2022 season, where he was more of an off-ball linebacker. He is 6'4", 253 pounds, so he's huge, 96th percentile height. He ran a 4.59 40 at his pro day. He's extremely young, just barely 21 years old, and overall has a 9.28 relative athletic score. In 2022, he had 103 tackles, 13.5 tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks, 1 interception, 5 passes defensed, 1 fumble recovery, 3 forced fumbles, and 39 pressures. I think Drew Sanders has a rare combination of length and explosiveness. That 96th percentile height, he's got the good 40. He's a fluid mover in space. And as you would expect a guy that was an edge at Alabama before he transferred, he's got excellent pass rushing ability. And Arkansas rushed him some off of the edge. They also blitzed him through the A-gap a lot, where I thought he was really effective. He's not the most polished guy in coverage, but I did think he showed some good instincts in zone coverage despite being new to the position. So that growth in one season, I think it projects well to the NFL, and we all know that development's not linear, but I do think he could develop into a decent coverage guy. I have him number 2. You and Mark both have him at number 1. I'll let you take the lead here on Trenton Simpson.
Yeah, Trenton Simpson is my 1A, while Drew Sanders is my 1B. They're both in that same tier. I've got a round 2 grade on Trenton Simpson. Everything you're looking for in a modern coverage linebacker. He's a freak athlete, 6'3", 240 pounds, legit speed. In athletic testing, he ran the 40-yard dash in 4.43 seconds. And he sat out the remaining tests, which allowed Jack Campbell to really be like the linebacker that stood out. And we're going to talk about him in just a little bit, but this is a guy who can thrive in the box. He has sideline to sideline range. He checks off a lot of boxes in coverage, like I said, but he's a playmaker. He moves like a safety. He's got the speed and power of an edge rusher, the strength and instincts of an orthodox linebacker. Clemson lined him up against slot receivers, where he allowed only 18 catches on 144 yards across 28 targets in coverage. He's also, again, a great blitzer. He notched 31 pressures and 7 sacks in 2022. Weaknesses-wise, his cover awareness and route anticipation are very much still in that development phase. He's got all the tools you're looking for in that area. He's a major boomer bust pick, especially where I see, first round buzz for Trenton Simpson. I think he's more of a round 2 guy. But if you're looking to swing for the fences, like the New York Giants, Trenton Simpson is your guy.
All right, so let's go on to our number 3 guy. We all have the same number 3. It is Jack Campbell, linebacker out of Iowa. Mark, talk to me about Jack Campbell. I'll let you lead us off here.
So I've been hounding Dibes and Shane to get their big boards to me so I could compare and make some lists and we could start having arguments, and that's what I'm in this for. And there's always a couple guys, and I think you guys can say the same. I know Dives has one that he was shocked he was the highest on. There's always a couple guys that you go through, and we finally all have our top hundreds, or even more than that, our big boards fully made, and you're like, wait a second, I'm the highest on this guy? and that's what happened to me with Jack Campbell. I did not expect to be the highest on Jack Campbell out of the 3 of us. I think I have him at 45th overall. We obviously all have him as our linebacker 3. I thought Shane might be a big fan because of the 9.98 RAS. I thought Dibes might be a big fan because of some of the tape he had in 2022 in Iowa. But I was shocked to see that I was the highest. He's got all of the athleticism. He's got all of the height. He's got all of the size that you could want. 91.9 PFF grade for Campbell in 2022. He's an incredible run defender. He will be elite at that immediately, I think. But there's a couple weird things about Campbell's tape that just don't make you go, oh, I love this prospect. Like, it doesn't feel like he's making big impact plays a lot of the times. It feels like he's kind of playing center field a little bit and letting it come to him as a linebacker. And it's weird to see as a linebacker instead of a safety. And then he also too often allows blockers into his body. And then I talked about the 998 RAS, but do you guys think he looks like an elite athlete on tape? Like he looks, I'm not saying he doesn't look like a good athlete, but he doesn't pop off the screen athletically. Maybe it's that Iowa Hawkeyes uniform. Maybe that zaps the athleticism out of you. Maybe you're not allowed to look athletic in the black and yellow.
All right, let's keep rolling here to our number 4s. At number 4, both Mark and I have Noah Sewell. He does not make Dibes' top 6. And then Dibes has Deion Henley as number 4. Mark has him as 5. I have him as 6. So Dibes, let's throw to you first. Let's talk Henley, and we'll circle back to Sewell.
All right. Deion Henley, winner of the draft process for sure. Out of Washington State. He's a former wide receiver turned linebacker, which was really noticeable during the Senior Bowl. His twitch and ball skills to hound route runners, to squeeze receivers at the catch point is outrageously impressive. You have to notice that from the jump. He's kind of an excellent example of where the linebacker position is going in the modern NFL. This is a guy who thrives to play in space, thrives to play in coverage. His speed and overall movement skills allows him to play both in man and zone coverages. He has a nose for the football. He forced 3 fumbles in 2022. He recovered 2 more. When he's blitzing, man, he's got nose for ball carriers in the backfield. He's got a really strong blend of athleticism, playmaking, effort, which makes him an intriguing option for any second level of any defense in the NFL. So again, this is a guy who really crushed it at the Senior Bowl, and I didn't really know about him until then. Weaknesses wise, I think his age is going to scare a lot of teams, considering this is also a developmental prospect. I think he's going to be 24 years old in the near future. But again, it only takes one team to fall in love with a player in the draft, and that combination of age and lack of linebacker experience and truly specialized skill set might push him down on some teams' draft boards. Deion Henley is one of the more fresh surprises of the draft process.
Well, let's keep rolling then. Mark, we'll throw to you here to talk about Noah Sewell. He's number 4 for both of us. I'll let you take the lead on this one. Talk to me about Noah Sewell.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that at the beginning of the process I thought might be involved in that top 3. But he definitely just didn't test quite as well as those guys, which is funny to say when you have an 8.38 relative athletic score. 6'2", 250, 3-year starter, 218 tackles, 7.5 sacks, and 20.5 tackles for loss over his 3 years at Oregon. Very consistent over those 3 years. If you look at the PFF grades, he had 3 years between 70.5 and 71.4. So it's played about the same in terms of if you look at PFF grades for each of his 3 years. Good size, very strong. NFL bloodline with his brother Panay excelling at offensive tackle for the Detroit Lions. And you can see the same mean streak that Panay has. There's a lot of tape where Noah is just absolutely bullying dudes. He definitely has that hit stick in him, if we want to stick with the Madden references. But really good blitz instincts for Sewell. Good luck to the running backs that have to block him, because that is just an absolute mismatch. So there are definite coverage concerns, though. That's kind of why he's not a part of that top 3 as well as some of the athletic scores. But he is a bit of a ball watcher in coverage for sure.
Well, let's keep moving here. We'll go to number 5s. My number 5 is DeMarvion Overshown from Texas. He is number 6 for Dibes. He's outside the top 6 for Mark. Overshown was recruited as a safety, but he struggled to get on the field for Texas as a safety. So he transitioned to linebacker, where he played out his career there. He is 6'3", 229 pounds, ran a 4.5 640, which is 85th percentile for a linebacker. Overall, he's got an 8.12 relative athletic score. In 2022, he had 96 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, and 5 passes defensed. I think he made a lot of progress from 2021 to 2022, which is encouraging to see for a guy that's new to the position. And I talked about that with Drew Sanders, making that, looking okay in coverage after only playing the position at 1 year. But seeing Overshown make those strides makes you think he can continue to make strides. Now, he's very good in coverage, which you would expect for a guy that was a defensive back. His defensive back background shows up in how he recognizes routes, how he transitions in coverage. He's got fluid hips, all of that. At 72nd percentile height, he has the length to match up with the big tight ends. He's got the athleticism to match up with some slot wide receivers. So I think you can use him. You can, use him a little bit creatively if you want to. He's got good range in the running game. He's often able to beat offensive linemen to the spot and string plays out or cut them off, especially on like wide run concepts. But I do think he's slow to diagnose those plays. And so he can be easily blocked. And once he's blocked, he's not getting off the block. And that's going to affect him most on inside runs where he's easier to target, but it affects him some on outside runs as well. And he has way too many broken tackles. He goes for big hits a lot. He had a 19.2% missed tackle rate over his career. And so I think he projects best to the next level as maybe a weak side linebacker, maybe a guy that you use as a sub-package linebacker. Well, Dives, let's talk about your number 5. Then it is Nick Herbig, linebacker / edge rusher out of Wisconsin. He's number 8 for me, so I'll fill in a few gaps after you go if you leave any. But and he's also not in Mark's top 6. But tell me about Nick Herbig.
This is one of those positions where like I didn't know where to put him, like edge rusher, linebacker, like Tuli Pelotu during our interior defensive line rankings. But Nick Herbig, one of the best when it comes to attacking the quarterback. He's small. He's only like 6'2", 228 pounds. But he's quick off the snap. He's got excellent body flexibility, very good closing speed. I think he's going to be a designated pass rusher in the NFL. And I think he has the quickness and aggressive play style to be really disruptive at the next level and just a true major weapon in blitzing situations. He's probably not going to be a 3-down starter, but on a team like the Eagles who kind of like these kind of dudes, there is some upside here. A team running like a standard 4-3 defense might struggle to find some use for Nick Herbig and probably struggle to make an impact on that depth chart. And like I said, I don't think he's going to be a 3-down starter, but on a team like the Eagles who love to rotate different depending on situations, you look at players like Hassan Reddick, players like Parsons. Those are guys that are kind of starting to open teams' eyes to the potential of players that have been kind of dismissed, like a Nick Herbig years ago. So I think Nick Herbig is going to be a very valuable player for the right team, but his future will heavily depend on which team drafts him. And he's definitely an intriguing guy out of Wisconsin. I think he's going to be a day 3 guy, but maybe round 3 is his upside.
By the way, Herbig would be my number 7 and Overshown would be my number 8, just for what it's worth.
All right. Well, let's get to your number 6. That's the last thing we haven't seen. Mark, your number 6 is linebacker Dorian Williams. So talk to me about Dorian Williams, why he made your cut here.
I mean, if this was an NBA draft podcast, I'd have Dorian Williams higher because, as Dives knows, I love some wingspan when it comes to the NBA draft, but not as important in the NFL, but it does feel notable. He is a little undersized, obviously 6'1", 226. He's got a 6'8" wingspan. For the people out there that don't know, on average, your wingspan is about 2 to 3 inches longer than your regular height. So this guy has a 7-inch gap between his wingspan and his height. So freakish stuff there out of Dorian Williams, just like his speed, which is also freakish. A 4.49 speed makes him a great coverage option. An 87 PFF coverage grade, very good in zone coverage with his length. 3-year starter, 302 tackles, 27.5 tackles for loss, and 9.5 sacks over the last 3 years. He is undersized for the run game, but I don't think that he lets it bother him too much. He is still competitive in that. He's not particularly instinctive, but there are a lot of tools that you can buy into with Williams. But you're drafting him to cover. You're drafting him to cover tight ends. You're drafting him to be a coverage linebacker.
there's other guys out there, and we want to shout out a few of those guys, maybe some day 3 prospects, some guys with some upside. Dibes, I'll throw it to you here. Shout out some of your honorable mention guys. Who are some guys that just missed the cut for you?
Leading off with Owen Pappoe out of Auburn, a guy that plays with immense intelligence, solid ability to read opposing offensive lines to block the run, freaky athleticism, very big hard hitter, and a guy that like has some really fun tape to watch. He ran the fastest 40-yard dash time among linebackers at the combine, 4.39 seconds. That is elite. The only linebacker in combine history to top his was Shaq Griffin in 2018 with a 4.38. He's something of a projection at the next level, but like he's played for 3 different head coaches in Georgia on his way to Auburn, and this is a guy that has just a ton of inconsistency when it comes to off the field stuff. He's gonna have his 7th coach in 8 years. 7th coach in 8 years. That's a wild number to think about. So Owen Pappoe is a really intriguing option. And then Henry To'oTo'o, linebacker out of Alabama. He lacks in size. He kind of makes up for it with his quick processing, lower body twitch. He's a bit undersized, and his tackling is a little inconsistent. But there's a guy that has really good recognition skills, solid speed to attack, pass, and run plays outside the hashes. He can be slow to react, but I think he's got a day 2, day 3 upside to Henry To'oTo'o. He needs to get better at shedding blocks, especially against bigger players in the NFL. But those are 2 guys that I think deserve a shout out.
All right, I'll talk about Ivan Pace Jr., linebacker out of Cincinnati. He played 3 seasons at Miami of Ohio before he transferred to Cincinnati for 2022, and he was a tackle machine. He racked up 136 tackles, 20.5 tackles for loss, 9 sacks, 4 passes defensed, and 2 forced fumbles. Now, he is tiny, 5'11", which is first percentile, 231 pounds, which is 19th percentile. He's got 30.25-inch arms, which is 3rd percentile. And so he's small. And to be honest, that's why he's an honorable mention. If he were 6'4" instead of 5'11", he would be my linebacker 1 and a first-round pick. His size is just severely limiting when you project him to the NFL. But he was the play caller on the field for Cincinnati in his first year there. He's got great instincts, great range. He was the fastest linebacker at the Senior Bowl on the GPS data. He shoots gaps in the run game. He hits hard. He's got great instincts in coverage. He hits his landmarks in zone. He can run with guys in man, but it's his size. He gets bodied by tight ends in man coverage, which is a little prohibitive to playing him there. He's a really good blitzer. He can time snaps well. He's got a lot of different speed rush moves. His go-to is a spin move that he loves, but he just can't get off blocks. And he lacks the size, and that's ultimately what it comes down to him. I think he's a sub-package linebacker, maybe a rush linebacker. But man, if he were 4, 5, 6 inches taller, the guy would be a first-round pick, in my opinion.